Welcome to Elton's retirement journey. This is my first fireside chat, and it is titled The First Trump Administration, Glory and Chaos. I first met Donald Trump on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous with Robin Leach. Came across as successful and soft spoken, talked carefully, and was convincing that he knew what he was talking about. In the first 100 days, the Trump administration approved a right of way allowing the Keystone XL pipeline that was to deliver oil sands oil from Canada, North Dakota, down to Galveston, Texas, where the refineries and the ports were at. This right of way allowed that pipeline to be built, and it directly competed with Warren Buffett's Union Pacific. Once the pipeline was completed, there was no longer any need for them to use the services of Union Pacific to deliver their oil. And as you know, once Biden got in office, that was canceled. And that was canceled because Warren Buffett was a major contributor. However, I was totally in support of anything that helps move oil from one area to another, especially when it comes to the oil sand. Even though it's difficult to extract that oil, it was producing. The second thing was the executive orders seeking to speed up oil and gas pipeline projects. Last 25 years, two pipelines disruptions caused price hikes. This was once up in Michigan when I was living in the Detroit area, and the other one was down here in Georgia. And we also had the Colonial Pipeline that was shut down due to hacking. The two pipe disruptions in Michigan and Georgia caused the price of gas to go higher because the refineries couldn't get any oil or natural gas, and then they couldn't deliver it to the consumers. So I was totally in support of that, which the Trump administration signed off within the first 100 days. And it was to deliver pipelines that go in bi-directional. I felt that would be good for the country. The next thing was his ban on immigration from selected countries. In the future here in the United States, there are going to be some areas that are going to be totally uninhabitable. So increasing our population is something that I think needs to be really considered as the sea level rises, there'll be less shore area. And as you know, we've gotten hit with two hurricanes in Florida, which is going to change how that area is viewed as far as permanent housing. So I'm totally in support of that, especially with most of those Muslim countries we weren't able to vet them, and a lot of them over in that area, Yemen and a few other areas that we don't have great relationships with. And also at that time we had problems at our border. The living space is becoming very expensive. We already know that. So I was supportive of that. Now the border wall, after touring Germany and witnessing how effective it was, keeping people from leaving East Berlin, I felt that the border wall would be helpful for our border patrol agents, and I was in full support of that. Of course, that has stopped under the Biden administration, and I know it's tough to have a border wall put, but once I was in toward Berlin, and as well as the museums related to securing their borders to keep people from leaving, and the Checkpoint Charlie Museum, which I spent about 3 hours in. People leaving the Democratic Republic of Germany over to West Germany, they had to go through a lot. I've seen people build tanks. One guy, he made an apparatus, allowed him to swim, and once he got to the other side, he got a job. He patented it, and a lot of navies use that apparatus, as well as someone built a plane, uh, ran off of like a lawnmower engine or something like that. But a lot of people had very, very difficulty. And it wasn't just Berlin, it went from Germany through Hungary, all the way up through Romania, Czechoslovakia. They all have borders so that no one could leave the Eastern Bloc. So if it can keep people from leaving, it can also keep people from coming. So I was in full support of that. Um, Kiana West and Kim Kardashian worked with Trump and got people pardoned. There was a number of people who were jailed. I don't know if you knew that powder cocaine versus crack cocaine, the crack cocaine carried a longer sentence. And there was a number of people that he actually pardoned with the help of Kiana West and Kim Kardashian. Probably a lot of people don't know that. One of the other things that wasn't well known um, is that on the whitehouse.gov, they would have everything that they're working on in the White House. And one of them was there was an executive order to help the historical black uh, colleges and universities. And specifically, what it was is that government agencies were asked and given a timeline to come up with some ideas to help these institutions. Very little is known about that. And I'm going to continue on here. May 21st, 2017, a missile was launched by North Korea. I was in my hotel in Seoul, South Korea when that took place. I visited the DMZ and looked over into North Korea. The threat is real. I went down into an infiltration tunnel, number four. They have six of them there that they have found. And tunnel number four is a tourist. You go underground and you walk through this tunnel that was carved out. The North Koreans say they were looking for coal, but there was no coal down there. They can move 30,000 troops through these infiltration tunnels under North Korea into South Korea. So the threat is real. Um, and my takeaway from that is that Trump ordered the fleet to the region after that missile was launched. And of course, I registered with the State Department, which made me feel somewhat protected that if I needed to get out of there, if a war broke out, that the State Department will come and get me. And there will be fleet coming up where I can be transported off the peninsula into safety. So I really like that. Um, the fleet was on maneuvers down in Australia, but he ordered them to turn and head up to that area. So I felt good about that. My thoughts that this keeps up um, may take action against them, but that's not what happened. Instead, he actually met with the leader of North Korea, which was historic, and said, "Wow, this is pretty amazing." After it's kind of weird when you're in a foreign country and they're firing missiles like that, and of course, North Korea is a nuclear power. Moving right along, here in this great state of Georgia, we had a gentleman, he was slightly out of his mind. He set some equipment that was stored under I-85 bridge, and it burned for so long that the bridge collapsed. And the Trump administration immediately came out and announced that they will be sending federal money down here to have our bridge rebuilt. And the objective of rebuilding that bridge was to uh, fast track the building of the I-85 replacement bridge here in Atlanta, Georgia. And that was an example of lifting the red tape as well as providing incentives to keep the costs under control, as well as getting construction projects completed ahead of time, which all that took place. So I was very proud of that, and that helped us out down here in Georgia. Um, Now we come into the real nitty gritty here. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was the largest tax code overhaul in 3 decades. The law created a single flat corporate tax rate of 21%, and many tax benefits to help individuals and families will expire in 2026, it looks like. So what that means is my tax bracket went from 22% down to 20. But what was so noticeable for me as a retiree is most of you have watched my channel, I'm 62, working at 67, was the rise in the appreciation of all my aggressive investments, mostly in large caps. And what I saw was $11,000 in capital gains the first year of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act signed off by Trump. So that was very, very big. and it really, really helped boost my portfolio. I cannot say that my investments will be where they are now if it wasn't for that. So I'm very, very grateful for that. And moving right along, we had the COVID relief checks. Once COVID hit, uh, he got the money out to people who needed it. Those checks came out right away, and so very grateful. And we also got an unemployment boost to state benefits where they were adding an extra $340 on top of the 360 that we receive here in the great state of Georgia. And that was actually moved down to $300. But that went on for a number of weeks. And what that was to do is boost the unemployment take home pay that would allow families and homeowners and people who were affected by COVID to maintain their lifestyle. There was be enough money while they're off so that they don't go in default on their expenses and the landlords and things like that. It didn't work out too well for a lot of people. I think they think it's okay just to run out on their landlords, but those days are fast coming to an end. Um, and that's pretty much it on my takeaways from the first administration. These are all things that I felt were outstanding, and basically prepping just in case he wins again. Uh, my takeaways is conclusion is I would have preferred to see him accepting the election results um, and gracefully exiting. Um, if he does get elected again, I'd like him to establish with the press what he is willing to discuss because he does get a little combative. And if it was me, I would say, hey, I'll bring them all in and have a chat and say, look, I'm going through a lot here in my personal life, but I got a job to do. If something comes up you hear in the news, don't come up and ask me directly in a press conference. Let's keep this on things that affect and are important to Americans. And you know how the press is. They like to create and run away with things. And take center stage when you're well versed or as needed. Your previous administration did so many things so well that there was no real need to even be out in front of the cameras that much. Silence is a virtue. So this is my takeaway on the first Trump administration. I thought I put something together. I got my nice little fire going here, and sometimes you really have to look at the positive things people do and not harp on the negative things. So this is Elton's retirement journey, and this is entitled First Trump Administration, Glory and Chaos. And this is my take. Thanks for watching.